I now have the honor of introducing our speaker. This bio for Amanda speaks to her spirit of compassion, strength, and joy for life. I had a little help with this bio. So Amanda, just hang tight with me, okay? Like I told Peter the other day, hang tight. In kindergarten, Amanda told her teacher that her dad was bit by a snake while hunting and he died. The truth only came out when the teacher offered Julie, Amanda's mom, her condolences. Her dad didn't die. Then there was a memorable event in first grade for show and tell. How many of your children have brought in a brain from a deer that your dad had harvested? Amanda did. Amanda did. Amanda Given Bakker is president of the newly formed nonprofit organization, the Tatum's Garden Foundation. And she is vice president and co-owner of Bakker Construction, Inc. with her husband of 14 years, Sean Bakker, and he's here with us, Sean. Amanda is a die-hard Broncos fan, so much so in 2001, when Broncos wide receiver Egg McCaffrey broke his leg in a football game, Amanda immediately broke out in tears. So go Broncos, keep them safe. Amanda is a fourth-generation Salinas Valley native, daughter of Joe and Julie Given, and a descendant of William E.P. Hartnell, founder of Hartnell College. Go Hartnell! Woo! Amanda graduated from Notre Dame High School's class of 1995 and was a strong student and athlete, earning herself an academic and athletic scholarship to Regis University in Denver, Colorado, where she played softball and earned a degree in psychology and Spanish. Amanda hates to run half marathons, but thinks running a 13-mile obstacle course race with 30-plus obstacles is no big deal. You only have to go 1/10 of another mile, half marathon. It was there she met her amazing husband, Sean, back in Denver. In college, there was an event called What Would You Do for $100? We know what you did. Thanks, Sean. Most participants were eating something gross or doing inappropriate things that college people do. So Amanda, who wore a wig at the time due to her alopecia, you'll hear more about that, I know I've slaughtered that, said she would shave her head for $100. Most people on campus did not know she wore a wig, so went in the back, buzzed with an electric razor, just for sound effects, of course, then went on stage with a shaving cream-covered head and proceeded to shave it with a Bic razor. The following day, she and Sean started dating. Aww. She has never looked back about the hair. The dating part of Sean, I'm not sure. That's what Sean said. That's what Sean said. In addition to everything she's doing, Amanda is a proud mother of Olivia, 8, Wyatt, 5, and Tatum, 3. In the last year, she and her family spearheaded the huge endeavor to create Tatum's Garden, a place where all of their children can come together regardless of physical ability and play side by side. Tatum's Garden opened to the public 6 weeks ago, and Amanda is here today to share a piece of her story with us, how the twists and turns in life's journey prepare us for great things, how they prepared this family to be the spark that would ignite a fire for change in our community and in the world. Amanda.
Anything yet. Thank you, Sean, for that fine introduction. The good news is all my nerves are gone after that. Wow. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you today. I want to begin by sharing my intentions with you for this time. I want you to get to know me and my family and what brought me to this season of my life, and hope that you will hear things that resonate with you and your own story. So I'll begin with a little background, although I was not going to talk about deer brains. I was born and raised right here in Salinas, the oldest of 3 girls. My sisters and mom are here too. I was blessed to have my mom, Julie, stay home with me as a child, and my dad, Joe, be an example of a hardworking business owner who did everything he could to support his family. We had a very close-knit, active, and busy family, and we still do. And we grew up as girls alongside the basketball court and the softball diamond when my dad coached at Notre Dame High School for 30 years, beginning when I was 2 years old. And I grew up idolizing these young women who were athletes, wanting nothing more than to be strong and talented like them. I was blessed to be given a strong foundation in my faith and the confidence to excel in academics and athletics. I was raised to be confident, strong, a leader, and with the belief that I could accomplish anything. And I can't thank my parents enough for those lessons of my youth, because life always comes full circle. I didn't know it at the time, but my senior year in high school, something changed my course in life. Subtly at first, but it would shape my entire future in many ways. It was when my hairdresser found my first bald spot 19 years ago. That teenage panic at 17 years old found a name in alopecia areata, an autoimmune disorder with no cure and more questions than answers. It's something that would leave my everyday physical health fully intact, while my emotional health was about to embark on a 4-year roller coaster ride. As you can surely relate to, our hair is an important part of our view of ourselves as women. It's tied to our femininity, it helps define our personal style, and takes up a lot of our time and money. By a show of hands, how many of you in here this morning spent more than 30 minutes on your hair?
I never did. So many.
How many of you were worried that the rain was going to mess up your hair? Yeah. As my condition progressed, I went from having only quarter-sized patches of hair missing to being unable to hide large areas on my own and resorting to wearing wigs. It seemed like the natural progression of things. The other natural progression was for my sense of who I was to flounder. I think 18 to 22 years old or so is a very hard age for young people anyway. You're finding your direction in life, deciding on a career, navigating the minefield of dating relationships. For me, those things were all colored by this secret that I had. I was terrified of somebody finding out that I didn't have it all together. And with every hair in the shower drain or on my pillowcase, the facade crumbled. Poor decisions, struggling grades, and caustic relationships littered the path. Coming home for visits racked me with worry. What would everybody think? I had lost sight of the confident girl I once was. She had given way to fear, which I have come to know for what it really is: false expectations appearing real fear. But thankfully, on the path that is my life, that was only just one dark stretch. It wasn't the whole story. My awakening was coming. I approached my senior year of college with some freshness. I was freed from a bad relationship, ready to enter the season of independence that was ahead, pursuing my studies with my old fervor and success, and making adult decisions about my future. And my open heart gave God the space he needed to draw me back into the most important relationship in my life, and that's the one I have with him. I found him beckoning me to remember the simple things we learn as kids. Things like, it's what's on the inside that really counts. And that even though he says in Matthew that every hair on my head is numbered, I should take courage knowing that the Lord does not look at the things that man looks at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This heart awakening led to a bold move, even though Sean already ruined the story for me. And this was a rather impulsive decision to ditch the wig, so to speak, and shave what little hair I had been hiding to be free to be me. It was an unforgettable night. I remember what I was wearing right down to the shoes. And it's a long story, I'll spare you, but essentially I won $100, like he said. And it was a college dare night, shaving my head on stage in front of everybody. It was a terrifying and freeing moment. I walked campus the next day and those after and realized what a weight had been lifted and the freedom I felt, and that having no hair in the winter in the Rockies was really cold. So I invested in a lot of beanies. But a critical piece of this puzzle, and one of those forever life-changing pieces, was that an acquaintance of mine was there that night. We didn't know each other really well. We had a few classes together and some mutual friends. But he told me something a few days later that I will never forget. You know, one of those rare moments when you get to see yourself through the eyes of somebody else. This friend told me that he'd always seen me around campus as somebody who looked like I was hiding something. That I always had hair framing my face and covering my face, and he didn't know they were wigs. But he thought it looked like I was trying to hide, which was so eye-opening and interesting. But now here I was, literally in the flesh, and my every expression and emotion was real, no facade. It was so eye-opening to see myself in another's honesty. And I wasn't as good a secret keeper as I thought. And I would venture to say that's probably true for all of us. I can only pray now that that friend knows just how much those words meant to a fragile heart that had just done something that I hoped was brave enough to stand in the wake of. We should all be so blessed to have friends like that who themselves are brave and loving enough to unwrap us and gently speak to those tender layers underneath. That beautifully honest friend became my husband about 2 years after that conversation. It's one of those defining snapshot moments in life that I've tucked away in the little red velvet box in my heart. And the gift of unconditional love did amazing things for a heart that was once paralyzed by worry, and it began to heal. It prepared me to face the world with my new self, one that now definitely didn't disappear and look like everyone else. I stood out like never before. But I've become more than used to children asking me why I don't have hair, or relieving someone's fears who think I have an illness. I can even embrace it with humor now, as you can see, and got the most awesome puzzled reaction from my daughter the other day when I said a familiar quote that God only made a few perfect heads and the rest he covered with hair. She believed me and wanted to look it up in the Bible. Bless her heart. I can even take in stride my dad's loving nicknames like Chrome Dome. And the real reason is that I know who I am, and I'm absolutely free from the stress of who I'm not. So fast forward 6 more years, and Sean and I had a cozy little life in Colorado. We owned our first home, owned a construction business, and were blessed with our almost 2-year-old little treasure, Olivia Grace. And apparently life was maybe a little too comfortable, as once again a life-changing moment was coming. One that involved words I swear I never thought would pass my husband's lips. I feel like God is telling us to move to California. What? Interestingly, I was the one who dug in my heels. I hadn't lived there in years. Why was this a good idea? Some of those old fears tried to resurface. People here didn't know the new me, the me that has no hair and has to explain herself all over again. So I said, okay, dear. Okay, God. Gulp, trust, pray, and go. So we sold most of our worldly possessions a few months later and moved back to Salinas in the summer of 2007. Which, if you recall, was an awesome time for a contractor who knows nobody to relocate to this area. But over the next year, we honestly struggled to find our place a little bit. We lived with family. Sean was an employee again after being a boss, and we made many sacrifices. We worked our way into our new world. And by July of 2008, Sean had gotten his own contractor's license in California. And we welcomed, our son, Wyatt Michael, into the world. Construction is a daunting industry to start from scratch. But with a new beginning came opportunity to redefine our business and think about things like a mission statement, and coming to the realization that we wanted to be a different kind of company, a different kind of contractor. We are different and unique, so why not showcase that? And so we did, and we grew. And by summer 2010, we found ourselves with doors opening all over the place. We were expecting surprise baby number 3 in a few weeks. We were in escrow buying a home of our own here in California and simultaneously running 2 large jobs on the peninsula. And we also had a good rhythm working together. I was doing the bookkeeping and Sean was out in the field. I remember September 24th, 2010 was the first night we spent in our new home. And I remember so well the sense of accomplishment, another new season beginning. And amazingly, I was days from giving birth, but I wasn't overwhelmed with the stack of boxes everywhere. I knew I would have a baby in 4 days, and then I'd have a couple quiet weeks to unpack, to decorate, to get ourselves settled in. It's something that I enjoy doing, so I was looking forward to just that quiet time. You know, when they're little, they don't do anything. They just look. So September 28th, 4 days later, we walked into Chomp for our scheduled C-section, very relaxed and calm. By now, we were old pros at this having babies thing. We joked with the nurses and doctors who knew us very well by now. And I was prepped for surgery by a very chatty, upbeat staff. I remember my doctor talking about an upcoming trip he was taking as surgery began. And then an eerie moment occurred. A lull in the conversation, I thought at first, as things got really quiet. And then a frenzy of activity. By the tugging on my body, I thought I could feel that she should have been delivered by now. I remember asking Sean if she was out yet, and he stood up to check, while I heard my mom behind me say, kind of confused, "Oh, she's already out." And a firm hand on Sean's shoulder told him to sit back down. My heart was pounding like it is right now, screaming in my ears. Something was very wrong. And then I heard a weak little cry. The next few minutes crawled and flew by all at once. we learned our sweet baby girl, Tatum Elizabeth, was born with undiagnosed spina bifida and hydrocephalus. Wait, what? That's not how this day was supposed to go. We learned that her spinal cord had not fully formed and was open and exposed to the air. The cerebral spinal fluid had not circulated properly, as it should have, so her skull was swollen with fluid and was the size of a 3-year-old's. They told us she would probably have no sensation from the waist down and most likely had a club foot. We watched in helplessness as our tiny newborn was airlifted to UC San Francisco Children's Hospital, while I still laid half numb and recovering from major surgery on my bed. I was able to reach out and touch her fingers for a moment, but then she was gone. We were quietly wheeled back to our room where we realized we were completely alone and we had our moment. I literally remember Sean fall to his knees on the floor and I couldn't get to him. All I could do was lay in bed. It was every emotion flooding over the banks of our hearts. Disbelief, fear, grief, agony, dread, denial, anger. But in reality, it was so cleansing just to get it all out and released. And after a long time, we spoke to each other. And I'll never forget that conversation either. It was a life changer. It was the, how are we going to respond? How are we going to do this talk? We consciously, prayerfully, thoughtfully had a choice to make. To live in this place of fear, denial, embarrassment, shame, or to choose to stand up with open hands and hearts and embrace the unknown road ahead. To love our beautiful child for exactly who she is and not focus on who she's not. We made a singular decision not to get too far ahead of ourselves, to take this one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, one breath at a time, and to simply respond with hope. The whirlwind of the next few weeks was 3 brain surgeries, a spinal cord surgery, learning how to use a catheter to empty her bladder for the rest of her life, and finally, on the 7th day after she was born, getting to hold her and breathe her in. That day, all that was worry became good. Our hearts sang a new song. This was our child, and we knew somehow we would be okay. That openness has transformed over the last 3 years. Instead of fighting, it's an open embrace of this world I never thought I'd be in, a world of special needs and disabilities, and a handicap placard hanging on my rearview mirror. And probably every parent new to this world feels this way. The last thing we want is to be labeled. I'm just Tatum's mom, and I'm proud of it. This little child brings more joy and light to a room than I've ever seen before. She's feisty, she's funny, she's a crazy hard worker and has improved so much. The thought of her in a wheelchair used to make me sad, but now I see and know that it's become her legs. She has independence and freedom to be a toddler and to get in trouble, to open drawers and unroll all the toilet paper, but also to race down ramps and twirl in circles and dance. She's shown us she is smart and determined and brave, and we couldn't be prouder. And so here we are. We are a busy family. Everybody's busy. We've grown our own business at Bakker Construction to be successful, even in this economy. And I have found my gift is not bookkeeping. Thank God. And I just get to be mom. This full life keeps us busy, like most families. We coach softball and t-ball, go on field trips, spend time with our extended family and cousins, and going 3 times a week to therapy, chiropractors, quarterly visits with Tatum to UCSF, and now she's started preschool. 3 different pickup times. So we're not atypical. We're just busy and finding our new normal. So life is so normal now that we decide we can handle our first big family vacation with all 3 kids. over Labor Day week in September 2012. We were on our way to our grandparents' cabin near Yellowstone Park, one of my favorite places in the world. And out of nowhere, our sweet son Wyatt froze up all over the car. We're in the middle of rural Idaho, somewhere we never would have stopped, a couple hours from our destination. But we have to do the panic, swerve off the highway at the next exit, unload, disinfect, just the whole mess, the yuck. And Sean, being the smart guy that he is, suggests, maybe we should find a park or somewhere the kids can run around, blow off some steam. We've been in the car for 15 hours. Maybe they'll sleep the rest of the way there. So we agree. He Googles the closest park to where we happen to have pulled off the highway, and we set off. Little did we know that Wyatt's puke was about to change our lives. We pulled up to a beautiful, one-of-a-kind playground called Brooklands Playground in Pocatello, Idaho, named for a local little girl there with spina bifida. I read signs that shared that the playground was inclusive for children of all abilities to play together, and that the community had raised all of the money and built the playground together. It's kind of a lot to take in. The big kids ran off to play and explore, and I kind of staggered to a swing and pushed Tatum and like I said, just kind of absorbed it. I remember looking up at the top of the structure, which was a big pirate ship, and seeing a young girl, maybe 10 years old, who was in a wheelchair, playing and laughing up there with her friends. And that's when it hit me. We had just ordered Tatum's first wheelchair. We didn't even have it yet. But I had not even begun to consider concepts like accessibility and where she could and couldn't go, or would and wouldn't be able to go, such as every playground in town, especially the one around the corner from our house, with sand or bark, and her wheels would just get stuck. So within a few heartbeats, I knew it was not a coincidence that we had found this place, and that we were going to build something like this in Salinas, and that was just it. And from there, you probably know most of the story. But then come the questions, right? So how does something like this happen so quickly, so powerfully, and in Salinas? I can only say that I knew in my heart of hearts that this would be something that would transform our community. And so it began. We shared the vision with a few close friends and family, and then they evolved into a board. And then that soon became a committee. And then a name was placed on my heart to call it Tatum's Garden. And a design took shape, creating a vegetable garden in a playground. But more importantly, we focused on including all children, creating a sanctuary for kids of all abilities. We secured a fiscal agent in the Salinas Circle for Children, and we also filed for our own nonprofit status, which we did just receive as the Tatum's Garden Foundation. And then came the support. We had no idea how long it would take us to raise our money, maybe a few years. Well, from mid-May, literally this last May, to today, we have raised just over $1.2 million in 8 months. We're just $50,000 shy of paying all of our construction costs and funding our maintenance fund. Incredible. In September, we as a community came together for the amazing event called Build Week. Many women and men in this room were there. Can I see a show of hands if you came out and helped us build? Woo! Awesome. So fun. You were assuredly working alongside unlikely partners. Every zip code in Monterey County was represented, from teenagers to a woman in her 90s. All races, all socioeconomic backgrounds. The playground was built in 10 days. And I remember the emotions being so overwhelming for us. We just held hands one morning as people kept showing up, and we cried. don't know what was more emotional, seeing all these people we knew just come and show up, or seeing hundreds of people who had no idea who we were, who came and gave up their time, caught the vision, and wanted to be a part of it. What began as a desire to create somewhere that our 3 kids could play together became that personal for everybody out there. For people who gave $5 or $150,000, it has become a symbol of what one family can spark into action in a whole community. When we opened on December 8th, my greatest joy was in watching hundreds of people just play. With walkers or wheelchairs, strong legs or grandparents using a cane, toddlers and big kids, all in their own way, together like nowhere else. Creating common ground is what we did. People were looking for their names on fence pickets or sponsored bricks in our new donor wall. To take it all in blows me away. We did this. Can I get a show of hands of who has actually been out there and seen the playground? That's awesome. It's beautiful. It's better than we ever could have dreamed of or imagined. And now it's here for a legacy of generations to enjoy. And so now you're thinking, well, that's a great story, but how does this relate to me again? Well, I hope that you find chords of resonance here, as women and men, as fathers and mothers, as those desiring more positive change in our beautiful community. I hope in some ways that you see our story is not that unique. Like all of you, we've lived a life of ups and downs. That journey prepared us for such a time as this. We'd never done anything like this before, and now here we are. So here are some lessons I've learned that I hope you take away from today. Lesson number 1, all things happen for a reason. In Ecclesiastes, God says, there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven. Our story shapes who we are today and who we will be tomorrow. And unfortunately, it's not all pretty. We live in an imperfect world. But we must embrace that our lives are a story. And all the chapters are different. Some are more exciting than others. But together, a beautiful story takes shape. I would never have chosen alopecia and a bald head. But I've learned a lot from living this part of my story. About true beauty, about confidence and poise, about being different and handling other people's questions with grace. All this has prepared me for raising daughters, for one, but I hope especially a daughter who is Tatum, who stands out in a crowd, who will be questioned about why she uses a wheelchair or what's the issue with her health. And one day I pray my experience will help me lead her by example in how to embrace individuality and differences with some humor and some grace. Hopefully it's something she's already learning without even knowing it. While her brother and sister see gifts like compassion, acceptance, helping those less fortunate, and mercy as things that are worth working hard for. Lesson number 2, don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Live in the moment. Fear, yes, that word again, false expectations appearing real. Fear creeps in when we venture into the what-ifs and the worries of tomorrow. Time is so fleeting. We get caught up in the planning, the striving for the right timing, and we blink and 6 months have gone by, and no action's been taken. I encourage you to live life in the here, not the what-ifs. Set conquerable goals. It would have felt much more comfortable to set our Tatum's Garden goal maybe 3 to 5 years out there for fundraising and construction. And then if I got lucky and it still all really happened, my kids would all be too big to want to play at a playground anymore. The passion is here now. The reason why is burning on your heart now. Let that passion fuel the fire of motivation. The time is now. And maybe that sounds scary to you, But I would encourage you to wait for someone else to have the guts to start something. Step out of your comfort zone and do something new. Doesn't mean you have to have all the ideas. We aren't all wired that way. So if that's not you, find a cause you're passionate about. Join a committee. Our project took over 3,000 volunteers to complete, and we needed every one of them. But every one of them caught the vision and sensed the timeliness of our mission. From that light bulb moment in Idaho to our grand opening was only 14 months. The time is now. Lesson number 3. Don't put our hopes in some celebrity to be a role model to our kids. Leading by example begins every day in our own home, our own careers. Whether you're a parent or not, we all have situations where we're around the younger generations. We lead by example when we do what we say we're going to do. We follow through, we keep our promises. Whether it's reading a bedtime story even though we're tired, or building a playground even though it's really hard, because we promised we would. I make a very conscious choice to exercise, and I do so with and in front of my kids, even though it's hard, because I never want Tatum to feel pushed to her physical limits in physical therapy 3 times a week without seeing that I'm willing to work as hard as I'm asking her to. We also lead by example when we put family first, beyond just being a nice sentiment that we hear all the time. Mad, we didn't complain about it or avoid the issue or wait for someone else to do something about it. We did everything we could to change it. And far more than any other people who might have been watching our project or what we were doing, the only audience that mattered to us were those 3 kids. We refused to let them down. We made it our own passion and prayer to create a place where our 3 kids and their cousins could play together, and we didn't stop until we did it. And that's the kind of parent I want my kids to remember having, the kind of example and legacy we wanted to instill in them. So who is watching you today? How can you be more intentional with your example? Finally, lesson number 4. Open your heart to the light bulb moments around you. The I think we're supposed to move to California kind of moments, or wouldn't it be cool if there was a playground like this back in Salinas kind of moments. Those moments are easy to brush under the rug or excuse away with excuses, and then they become shouldas next year. I say to you today that an opportunity is knocking on the door of your heart. Maybe a small step. Maybe it's a life changer. I invite you to listen to that knock, open the door, and see what's on the other side. There are amazing, brilliant, vision-filled women and men in this room right now, wondering if they should really go for something or not. I say, take that gulp, pray, trust, and go. Take that first step with no regrets. One of my favorite quotes right now is from Gandhi. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. You can be that next spark. Thank you.
Stay right here. Stay right here. Wow. Keep clapping because she deserves it. I mean, seriously.
What can we do for the Antenna Fund today?
That's a great question.
How do we do that? Do you need volunteers? Do you need anything else? Who maintains Tatum's Garden?
Great question. So our newly found nonprofit, the Tatum's Garden Foundation, exists now first and foremost to care for Tatum's Garden. So we as a foundation are leasing the property from the city. It's our asset for us to care for and maintain. And so yes, we pay for things like toilet paper and cleaning service and things like that ourselves. We wanted to be able to have control of that and keep it its best. So through the foundation, we are still, of course, soliciting and accepting donations of any size. And we will in a few weeks here, hopefully by next week, be selling a new section of bricks at the playground where you can sponsor an engraved brick that you can personalize. But so that number, 50,000, about half of that pays off the rest of our construction costs, and the rest of it funds our maintenance fund so that we are in the black and cared for the next several years. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, are you on automatic deduction? Are you banking with someone that, like, we could say, hey, I want to give you $100 a month? Are you set up, or can you get set up to do that?
I don't know. We bank with Pacific Valley Bank, who's here today, and I think you probably can.
So can you get that service set up so we have a way of putting?
Sure, we can do that. Right now we have PayPal set up through our website, and people can donate online that way, but sure, Sue and I will work on that. Yep.
Give us a day.
Where is Tatum's Garden?
Oh.
Great question. We are centrally located on the lot, the huge city block that is Sherwood Park, and really the hub of recreation in Salinas. So we have Sherwood Park, the Storm House and the Storm Fields, brand new Rabobank Stadium, Boys and Girls Club, and Tatum's Garden is right on the corner of Mariel and Bernal. Was a 4-acre empty parking lot for 40 plus years, so we've repurposed it.
It's beautiful.
Anything else?
Anybody else? Oh, that's
Oh, wait,
something.
Cathy's got one in the back.
In that maintenance fund, does that include security or combating vandalism, that kind of thing?
Yes and no. We don't have surveillance security there all the time, but the park is gated and locked at night. The bathrooms are all locked. The playground is locked, and then opened again in the morning. So that service is being donated right now. But as far as vandalism is concerned, we've kind of taken all the precautions we can. All of our artwork is covered with a graffiti coat, so that it just wipes right off if that happens. But it hasn't happened. So we kind of feel like we did our best to protect what we created and included all the community in creating it so that we all feel this sense of ownership and belonging to it and take care of it together. We just hope that trickles out into the whole community. So, yes.
Yeah.
Who is the maintenance done? Are there community youth, teenagers, volunteers that help you do that? Ongoing?
We do have some wonderful community organizations who are doing our maintenance for us right now. Hope Services being one of them, and Paradigm Adult Services. Wonderful organizations that employ high-functioning special needs adults with a paycheck and a job to do, and they all helped build the playground, so they feel a big sense of pride coming out there to care for it. And then we just last weekend had our first monthly community cleanup day, so it will be a monthly thing. We are hoping to branch out and possibly have a local high school kind of adopt Tatum's Garden each month and spearhead that month's cleaning day and get their community service hours and the recognition for doing it. So we still have a working committee and forming committees on all of those things, and you're welcome to join in those efforts with us as well. Molly? Sure, there is a little sensory garden in the tot lot area that has right now some winter vegetables in it and some citrus trees and things like that, and that'll be maintained as well. But the theme really was to create a vegetable garden in a playground that reflected the agricultural history and foundation of the Salinas Valley. So we've got really fun features like a giant broccoli tree house and an artichoke amphitheater and a little strawberry cottage and vegetable themes, carrot monkey bars, and things all throughout the playground. So that's where the name came from. Yes. A lettuce maze that Felicia helped to make. Yes. Maybe. To be honest, we were just overwhelmed by how quickly and how successful the fundraising happened. It was a combination of so many things, everything from, dollar drive-throughs where people gave change or a couple dollars to, we had a beautiful large gala event here at the country club where we raised $130,000 in one night. We had Tracy Townsend, who's here somewhere, write some amazing, successful grants for us. And then the awesome, generous sponsorship of several local produce companies, and it was a combination of lots of things. We tried to keep ourselves always in front of the community. Had great sponsorship in KSBW, and kind of an event every month, whether it was something small or large, and it just happened fast. Sure.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, this is definitely going to be one that we remember. Absolutely. So, everybody